Move across our border now. On Monday, Emmerson Mnangagwa was sworn in as president after last week's elections in Zimbabwe. This went ahead despite an outcry from the opposition and also election observers raising concerns that this election was neither free nor fair. The main opposition, the Citizens Coalition for Change, was going to take the matter to court but has now decided against this. So what happens next? Is it business as usual in this country that has an inflation rate of over 170%, with more than half its citizens living in dire poverty? Joined now by Promise Mkhwanazi, spokesperson for the CCC opposition party. Promise, I wonder if you could start by explaining why your party's decided not to go to court.
Well, the reason not going to court was that the courts in Zimbabwe have become compromised. The courts have become predictable. As you know, that in the build-up to this election, we did go to court several times on several cases where we were trying to make sure that we as far as possible, we push through the legal route so that the election could, as far as possible, be free and fair. And you know that all those cases were dismissed.
Where not just you as the opposition, but many observers, including SADC observers, spoke out about this election as not being free or fair. It seems nothing has come of that concern raised by observers.
No. The concerns raised by the observers, SADC, African Union, and various others from the international community are very significant. In particular, the position taken by SADC is unprecedented. It's groundbreaking from what traditionally SADC has been known for. And we commend, this shift in the mindset of SADC to say that we must, as Africans, tell each other the truth and help each other, build and develop democratic, truly democratic institutions and truly democratic elections. And the position taken by SADC is very welcome on our side. And we know that it is the basis of which more things are to come in terms of assisting Zimbabwe go to a free and fair election. It's important, it's historic, it's very significant that SADC has taken that position. We continue to implore SADC to remain firm on that principled stand and help facilitate a dialogue in Zimbabwe. Dialogue aimed at ensuring that we drag Mr. Mnangagwa kicking and screaming to the drawing board, to draw a roadmap to a free and fair election that will be underwritten and supervised by SADC, and in which the Zimbabwe Election Commission can be abolished and a new electoral management body is put in place, including, dealing with some of the laws and some of the political culture and practices that have inhibited a free and fair election in Zimbabwe.
So yesterday was the inauguration. Our president, Cyril Ramaphosa, was there. But how many leaders from SADC arrived for the inauguration?
Well, we are told that only 3 leaders did come for the inauguration of President Mnangagwa. Again, another significant development. We have known traditionally SADC leaders, they commiserate together in historic events like inauguration of a newly elected president. We witnessed that in Zambia, in Lesotho, and many other countries. But here in Zimbabwe, we only had 3 heads of states that came to grace Mr. Mnangagwa's controversial inauguration. And that on its own is an indelible stain on Mr. Mnangagwa's stamp of legitimacy. We did see that most leaders were not able to attend. And obviously, that is linked to a damning report by the Election Observer Mission, which stated that the elections could not meet at least acceptable and reasonable standards of a free and fair election.
What do you make of South Africa's president being there? And we've also seen the ANC, certain party leaders, seeming to praise ZANU-PF and in fact the presidency in South Africa, congratulating the country on a harmonious election.
Well, we did state that the congratulatory message by President Ramaphosa was ill-advised and premature. You will know that he made the congratulations before the conclusion of the final SADC report, which was very, very unprecedented and unexpected. And we've seen him coming at the forefront of endorsing the regime in Zimbabwe, curiously at a time when South Africa itself is headed for an election. So we wonder if Mr. Ramaphosa wants to learn one or two tricks of rigging and so on and so forth. And we are very concerned about the Secretary General of the ANC, Comrade Fikile Mbalula. We think that he has really overstepped the stance against opposition, and that creates a lot of problems because we look to the ANC and the South African government in general to be objective and to help in a very genuine manner to facilitate a framework for stability and political stabilization in Zimbabwe. And I don't believe that the conduct of Mr. Mbalula can advance that very, very noble objective.
Talk to me about what the Citizens Coalition for Change, which is the official opposition in Zimbabwe, going to be doing. Are you going to participate in this government, bearing in mind the elections were flawed? Because I understand it's sort of elections, local and national elections all in one. Are you going to be not participating? What is your plan for the immediate future?
Well, the focus at the moment is the call for a fresh, free and fair election. I think that is the thrust and that is the message we want to send out there. And we have sent out delegates and deployees of President Nelson Chamisa to go and engage the region on the need for a fresh, free and fair election. Secondly, we are not going to surrender what we consider to be our liberated zone, areas where we have traditionally and historically dominated. We think that our domination is actually what came out of the election is an underrepresentation of our popularity in those areas. And a fresh election will demonstrate that we could even garner more votes in the urban areas than we garnered.
Quick one, promise Mkhwanazi, just to jump in, sorry. What leverage do you have to call for a fresh election? Who's going to support you?
Certainly, we expect the region to support us on the call for a fresh election based on the report that they took out, which was very clear that this election was muzzled with a lot of irregularities and therefore could not produce, the true will of the people of Zimbabwe. We count on the region, we count on the international community, and as well as the generality of our people here in Zimbabwe. Wherever you go, people are saying that the election that was announced was not true, the results were fake, and the whole election was a haste. So we need to sit down as Zimbabweans and collaborate in terms of bringing about a free and fair election based on a roadmap that considers the things that we have demanded.
All right. Well, thank you so much for chatting to us this evening, giving us an update on what your party is planning now. That's Promise Mkhwanazi, spokesperson for the Citizens Coalition for Change in Zimbabwe. And, of course, they are calling for fresh elections. They say the courts cannot be trusted, but they say the fact that SADC and other observers have spoken out against this election is really important. And they're calling on the region and the region's leaders to support this call for a fresh election.